Welcome to the Heal Your Hunger Show, where we get to the heart of why you overeat and how to stop. If you struggle with food and weight like I did, welcome home. Welcome everybody to the Heal Your Hunger Show. So happy to have you here. It is a great day to be alive. I hope you're enjoying the fall so far. Summer just flew by. I can't even believe it's over. And it's just, that's how time works. It just flies on by. I'm really happy to have you here if you're here for the first time. Welcome to the Heal Your Hunger Show. I truly mean that. This is a place where I discuss things that don't normally get covered, and that's like how to live life without the crutch of food, excess food that is. Obviously, we have to eat, which is why emotional eating and food addiction is tricky, right? You can't just stop eating. You have to eat, which means you have to learn ways of living that help you stay within the bounds of what works for you food-wise. You know, if we aren't living in a way that makes us happy, that has ease and grace, that is low stress, then it shows up in our food, right? So that's the kind of stuff we talk about here on the Heal Your Hunger Show. It's not your usual diet and exercise conversation. Thank goodness for that. There's lots of podcasts out there for that. But this is the deeper conversation, is how do we live in freedom from food addiction or addictive eating habits. So I want to also let you know that we have a new website, healyourhunger.com, and same website address, but there's a new quiz on there. So definitely, if you've not taken our quiz to find out if you're an emotional eater or a food addict or somewhere in between, start there, okay? Take that quiz, get your personalized score, and then next steps, what to do about it based on your score. And also, we keep the conversation going in the Secret Sauce group. This is a free group on Facebook called the Secret Sauce to End Emotional Eating. And because I've been traveling in Europe, I have been dropping in there with different little snippets of messages from my travels, photos, and whatnot. So I'd love to have you join us there, because that's where you can start getting support for overcoming emotional eating. So on with the show. I am really just gonna make it short and sweet, because what I want to do is talk to you about my day. And my day yesterday, I am in Marseille, France right now, and I decided to take, my partner is at a conference. He's a scientist, and he's at a science conference at this gorgeous, strange building that we're staying in, and where the conference is being held. It's not a normal hotel. It's an old fort, a fort at the entrance of the harbor of Marseille, which is gorgeous. There's so many boats all around, and the entrance to the harbor, you know, you can see the boats coming and going, and this fort is right at the entrance, and this is big old fort. And our hotel room is, I haven't quite figured out what it is, but it's an old like storage closet. It's a very small room, fits about a bed, that's it. But it's in these old arches, which used to store things, and we're not quite sure whether it was a prison cell storing a prisoner or whether it stored cannonballs. But anyway, it's this really small space that we managed to fit in. But I'm just trying to paint a picture of how ancient this is, and not ancient, but old, and not hotel-like. So anyway, it's kind of fun, and the view is to die for. But yesterday, what I decided to do is take a trip on the train up to Aix-en-Provence, which is a small city, I guess, or town, large town, small city, north of Marseille. And the reason I wanted to go there is because the artist Paul Cézanne worked there and had a studio there, and they have actually an opportunity to tour his studio, which is really like one room. So that's not a big tour, but I love Cézanne. I was an art history major, and it was exciting for me to go see where he painted and a little bit more about him and his life. So I took a train up there, and it was a super fast train, and it was wonderful. And but I hadn't planned fully. So this is where the topic of allow for surprises comes in. I didn't really know what I was doing. I had read some. I'd bought a ticket to tour this studio. I'd bought a train ticket, so that was covered. I had those bases covered. But when I got to the train station, it didn't look like there was a town anywhere nearby. So I used an Uber, and I asked the Uber driver to drive me to this studio of Cezanne, which he did. It was about a 25-minute ride. And because I knew I'd get there. I mean, hopefully I'd get there. You know, when you take an Uber, you're not totally sure whether you're going to go where you're meant to go. But that's true for a cab driver as well. So anyway, there's just always a little bit of excitement, you know, when you take an Uber, because, especially in another country, because, you know, you're trusting that the Uber driver is going to do what he says he's going to do. And so I wasn't afraid, but it did cross my mind, you know, I hope we're going where I asked him to take me. So of course we did. And so it was all great. I really enjoyed it. I asked for, that's as far as my planning went. And I asked a woman who I knew spoke English at the site, the Cezanne site, how to get back to town. And she gave me instructions about the bus. But the French don't speak English. You know, they're not, I did not know this. My partner told me, you know, they don't necessarily learn English here. You know, it's not required. And a lot of French just aren't interested. So don't expect people to speak English. And that was my experience. In fact, when I was getting to the train station, I was going to take the subway. And I went down into the subway station, and I didn't know how to buy a ticket. You know, it wasn't that, I don't speak French, so it wasn't that clear to me. So I left and I walked to the train station because I'm like, I don't know. I can't really ask anybody because people don't speak English. So this is how my day went. You know, I sort of I had a plan, and then I had moments where I had no plan, and then I had moments of slight panic, and then I had moments of figuring it out. So this is really the message I want to share here, because there is some fun, there is some excitement, there is some panic, there is a little bit of nervousness or perhaps anxiety. I didn't really ever feel anxious, but if you're prone to anxiety, it could definitely make you feel anxious when you don't have a solid plan. But there's also beautiful surprises within not having a plan. And my partner, he's traveled a lot in foreign countries, and he's always encouraged me, you know, don't always do the safe thing, meaning, you know, plan it all out and get, you know, a taxi everywhere. Leave space for trying to figure things out. Leave space for the unknown, which is leaving space for surprises. So I asked somebody who I knew spoke English at the Cezanne house. I asked her how to get the bus. She told me. I walked up the street. I waited at the bus station, but there's a bus that comes both directions, and I didn't know which direction I should be standing on. I stood on the wrong side of the street for a bit. A bus came. Some people got off. I asked somebody, just hoping she spoke English, and she did. She's like, you need to be on the other side of the street and go into town. So I got that question answered. I crossed the street. I waited for my bus. I got into town. And the first thing I did as I was walking into town was I found a health food store. And I wasn't even sure it was a health food store. It looked like just a regular store, but I thought, this looks interesting. And I walked in, and sure enough, you could always tell a health food store because it always smells so good in the store. You smell kind of spices, and there's just a natural smell to a health food store. I don't know if you've ever experienced it, but sure enough, I just took it in. I took a nice deep breath and thought, I'm home. You know, anytime when I travel, if I travel to a country, like I was in England a couple weeks ago, you know, I go to the Whole Foods because it feels like my North Star. To get to a health food store or a Whole Foods feels like I'm home. It's all going to work out. Unfortunately, Whole Foods is only in England and Europe and nowhere else. But that's what I did in England. I found my North Star. I was able to get some foods and some face cream that I trusted, that was natural and would feel good on my body. So anyway, I found this health food store in Aix-en-Provence. My French is not great, as you can tell. And so I was able to buy some things at that store. And then I went on my way, and I just had a lovely time. But I really didn't know what I was doing or where I was going. And eventually I was going to need to get back to the train station. So I spent some time in town sort of wandering around. I stopped in one place at some point to just, honestly, because I'd use the restroom. And I thought, well, I'll buy some, I'll buy some coffee, and that way I can use their restroom and not offend. And so I did that, and it was really lovely because I sat outside, and it was on a little park or square rather, so I could watch people go by, and there were some street performers, and it was just so lovely. And I was able to use the restroom a couple times, and then I went on my way. And again, without a plan, and I had wanted to go to the museum in town, but I didn't know where that was. And you might be wondering, well, why didn't you just Google it, Trish? And the problem was, as I was sitting and having coffee, I realized I was almost out of juice on my phone. And my train ticket was on my phone. And Google, of course, is on my phone. And so this is one of the drawbacks of being electronically dependent, is that, when your phone dies, you're kind of SOL. So I thought, oh no, I'm running out of juice. I don't want to use Google because I don't want to lose my ticket that I've pre-purchased that I need to show when I try to get on the train. So I winged it. I just kept walking, and I thought, I'll ask somebody. I'll walk through town, and it was so lovely. I stopped and I bought a few things, but I couldn't Google that museum that I had wanted to go to. So I sort of let it go, like, oh well, I just won't go there, And as I was walking, I ran right into it. It was sort of on the outskirts of the town. And I was walking. I had no sense of direction or which way was which, and it was right there in front of me. I thought, this is what I was looking for. And the beautiful thing about not planning everything is you allow for not only surprises, but for your internal GPS to kick in. And I consider my GPS to be God-powered solutions. GPS is an acronym for God-powered solutions. And I thought, how about that? God inside of me brought me here, and without my effort, without my Googling or anything. So I thought that was a beautiful surprise. And I went through the museum, and then I got directions to the train station. Now, apparently there's two train stations, a really fast train that's on a different line, different station, and then a slow train that's the usual train. So I got directions to the slow train. My ticket was for the fast train at the other train station. I could tell when I got to the train station it was the wrong train station. But I was too late. I mean, my train was about to leave. So I got there, and there was no train that was showing up at the time that my ticket was for, which helped me know I was at the wrong train station. But it was too late. So I got on the next train, headed back to Marseille. It's the slow train. It's the 45-minute train, not like the bullet train that takes 10 minutes, which I had arrived on and was supposed to go home on. But the beautiful thing, the next surprise was I sat in the shade on the stairs to the track, and I sat next to a couple German gals, young gals, high school age, and I asked them, because here I am about to lose juice in my phone, and I asked them, one of them, to take a picture of my ticket. So I'm getting really smart here, right? How am I going to solve this problem? So I had them take a picture of my ticket so that if my phone died, she would have it and she could show it to the conductor. And that's what we did. And we got on the train, and I found 2 seats. I found 3 seats. I said, hey, sit here because I might need my ticket. And so they sat, we sat at a sort of a table where there's four different seats, and And so I sat and chatted with them all the way to Marseille, and they were so lovely. They were from Frankfurt, Germany. And one of them had a charging deck on, where you can charge your phone. So I was almost out of juice. She helped me charge my phone on the way to Marseille, and we had a lovely conversation. I was able to give her my card because she was so impressed that I was from Los Angeles and wants to go to LA and see the celebrities and the ocean and all that. So we just had a lovely connection, and that's yet another surprise. You get to meet people and interact with people and learn about people, when you leave a bit open to chance. And that, again, is something that my partner's always encouraged of me. It's like, just don't plan everything out. Don't control everything, which I'm not a control freak, but he's all in favor and has encouraged me to just explore and expand and leave things up to chance. And that's where all kinds of surprises happen. So that was my experience, and it was really lovely. And I got to share a little wisdom with one of the girls who was explaining that she didn't really like Marseille and she didn't like France at all, and Frankfurt, Germany is so wonderful because the architecture is so great, and in Marseille they have these homeless people. And I said, well, you should come to LA because there's homeless everywhere in LA. And if I were homeless, I'd be in LA too, because it's good weather, very few bugs, ocean, gorgeous. But she, her view of life was young. It was a narrow-minded view. I want to go where it's beautiful, and there are no homeless, and it's not so dirty, and blah, blah, blah. And I said, look, it doesn't work that way. Life has good and bad. Life has ups and downs, and you have to embrace all of it. And so Los Angeles has homeless, and it has Rodeo Drive with a bunch of celebrities and super, super expensive cars. But the juxtaposition and the spectrum of ways of people living and existing in a city, to me, is part of what makes that city beautiful. And not that we want to have homeless, but obviously it's a fact, and we don't want to cut that out and act like reality is anything but a wide spectrum of circumstances and people living there. So I don't know if she got my message, but I tried to let her know that you want to embrace all of it. You want to embrace everything, because that's life. That's life, and we need to adjust and accept all the different aspects of life. So that was my little wisdom moment. But I just enjoyed myself so much, and it was a nice adventure with some beautiful surprises, some stress trying to find the right train station and realizing I was at the wrong one, some stress running out of battery juice. And now I know, now I'm going to buy a battery pack because that was cool, and take that with me when I'm traveling and when I'm out for a day of sightseeing, or upgrade my phone. It's better battery life. But there are surprises, wonderful surprises, when we don't plan it all out, and if we can just roll with it and see what's around the corner and trust our GPS, our God-powered solutions, we can really enjoy ourselves and be very pleasantly surprised. So that's my message for today. What ways can you let go of the reins a little bit, relax a little bit, trust that it's going to work out, that everything is in divine order. You have God-powered solutions within you. And when you're not in the way, driving all the time, driving the car, making things happen, you allow for that GPS to take over. You're guided by that GPS. And there are wonderful surprises to be experienced in that. So that's my message from Marseille. I'm headed today to Sardinia, Italy, and I'm super excited, and I'm sure I'll be checking in about that. But check out the Facebook group, Secret Sauce to End Emotional Eating, for more updates and photos and all that. Sending you so much love. And please also check me out on Instagram, Tricia Nelson _. Wishing you all the best.
If you enjoyed this podcast and want to get free support, insider health info, exclusive invites to events, and more, visit healyourhunger.com.